Hi everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to be working on this old Ferris ProCut 61 that's behind us here. We bought this last summer to kind of augment our turf equipment around here. This is great because it's got this big front deck. We've got a lot of spruce trees and brush around here, and this thing gets in underneath it to mow. Plus, if you've got somewhere that's maybe a little bit mushy that you don't want to go in with the big zero turn, this guy, you could stay high and dry with the wheels and get the deck in there. It works great. So we did what basic little work we had to do last summer to get the thing up and running so we could try it out. And then we went ahead and ordered some parts. So now finally, I'm getting around to doing the work on it. Most of the work we're going to be doing is on the rider part of it. So the first thing I'm going to do here is see if I can get the deck off. I think I've got the manual for this thing, so that'll be my first step, is trying to find that. What we could see here is it's pretty basic to get the deck off. We need to remove the deck drive belt from the rider and take these bolts out on each side, and off she comes. And then I'll just pick it up with the forklift or something and get it the heck out of here. Once I got the belt off, I realized that if I took this idler pulley off, it sits right there, it would give me a lot better access so I can just get a straight shot at these bolts with my impact gun. So we did that, and we got all these nuts and bolts loose and removed so that the deck will come off and we can get to work on our rider. Something interesting that I found, this seems to be a belt with a double V on it, because this idler here is a V, and I kind of think it should be a flat idler like that one. So we're going to have to look into that and see what we got to do about that. But anyway, no worries. We'll figure it out. You can see here's one of the things we need to deal with. The hydraulic reservoir leaks. Probably just one of the hose connections on the bottom. And it runs down there and drips onto the deck and makes a big mess. We don't like leaks. Look at it all over the floor, and this thing's only been in here for a couple of days. So that's one of the things we got to fix. So here's something that I forgot about. This thing pivots in the middle. That's how you can see how the front of it's aimed up. Now that's how you lift up the deck on this thing. For two reasons. Number one, so you can look at the blades and get at them. And number two, if you happen to get the deck into somewhere mushy and it gets stuck a little bit, you can lift it up and it puts all that weight on the front wheels and the thing comes right out. So what we are going to do, a modification we will make to this thing, is I'm going to, once I get it all back together, I'm going to drill right through that frame rail there on each side and have a couple of pins that I can put in it when I want to service it so that it doesn't flip like that. Right now I'm just going to jack it up and put a block of wood or something under it. There we go. I put this little gate latch on here, and that holds it up. It still lets it go down a little far. What I might do is maybe make a little bit of a piece that I can push on there to make that kind of bigger. But for now, it does the job. It keeps the thing from bifolding at its hinge, and we can work on it. Step one is going to be to get this thing out and get all this mess power washed off of it. We've got a bit of nasty weather kind of rolling through right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to maybe change the engine oil, because that's going to make a mess that I'll have to clean up anyway, because it looks like, for one, there's no way of getting that oil filter off without oil going all over the deck. So we're going to get the oil and filter changed, and I may have a go. If you remember when we got this thing, you can see there's a really nasty patch job. This control cable, it's a known issue on these things. I didn't have one at the time, so we just patched up this one as well as we could. But I've got a brand new one straight from Ferris sitting on the bench, so we could change that. And then worry about, oh, there's the drain plug right there. So yeah, this is going to be messy. Oh well, messes are something we do to the extreme. Here goes nothing, eh? Oh, look at it. There it comes. Oil everywhere. That's all right. We got us a nice power washer. We'll get her cleaned up. And then the drain plug is right there. I'll have to get that out. It's hard to tell. I got to get my flashlight. I can't tell if it's a hex or a square. I think it's a hex. Well, it turns out it's a 5/16 hex. And there it comes. So I think what I'm going to do for the future, the oil filter is easy enough. I'll just poke a hole in the end of it and let it drain. And then this oil plug, I'm going to see about making it a little extension so it comes out here a little bit more. But then, it becomes susceptible to getting snapped off too at the same time. Sometimes with these things, the mess is the lesser of two evils. I made an extension for this drain valve or drain plug. So what I have to do now is get the jack back under it. When this thing pivots all the way, this thing here is the stopper. So what I have to do is I need to make sure that when this stopper hits the frame rail here, that it's not going to hit our drain plug here and knock this thing off. Worst comes to worst, I guess I could, maybe for now, I'm just going to turn it that way because I know that's not going to hit. Perfect. Nowhere near it. So I can go ahead and tighten this all up. And then we'll have a no mess oil drain. I got it filled up with oil. We put 10W30 Mobile 1 in it. I fired it up, let it prime and filter and everything. Then we shut it off and adjusted the level a bit. And that's all good now. Now, the next thing, I remember the air filter. It's a round one. It's a 6x3. So I just did a little bit of research and I found out the proper Baldwin replacement element, and there's actually a foam pre-filter you can get for it. So I'm going to go ahead and order those. But this one's okay. It works. And we'll just wait for it to quit raining. We can get outside and get the bottom of it power washed off. And then we'll get at this hydraulic tank and figure out what the heck is leaking. Oh, she's up on ramps. I squirted some degreaser on it. We'll let it sit for a minute and then go hog wild with the power washer. That's a heck of a lot better. We'll be able to see what we're doing under here now. First thing we're going to do is get the fuel tank and the battery out of the way. The fuel tank will shut this valve off here like that. And then it's just held on. The bracket is held onto the frame with 4 bolts. And the battery box, you can see, just slides down over these posts here. You can see the mess on the floor again after it just sat in here overnight. I got it up on stands, got the wheels off. Gives me a little more room to work underneath. And lo and behold, what do you know? Found another grease fitting. We've got a little pillow block over here. I'm not too sure why there's only a pillow block on this side. Because this axle comes out, the housing ends there. That's why. Okay, that makes sense. So it's got a pillow block here to support it. But now I know there's a grease fitting there. Next thing I got to do now, we're going to pull the oil filter off the Hydrostat unit. And that is actually on these things. The oil filter is the drain plug. So we'll pull the oil filter off and all the oil is going to come out of it. Then what we need to do is try and figure out if this is, I was reading in the book, and it says if it's a number 22 axle, use this lubricant or oil. If it's a number 32 axle, use the other oil. So we're going to have to try and figure out what the heck this thing is. Here's the filter here. You can see it's right behind the right front wheel. So we'll get that off, dump the oil out of it, and go from there. Turns out we have a Model 22 drive unit or transaxle, whatever you want to call it. The oil for that is, because this thing is sold, it gives an old mobile spec for DTE26, which the modern equivalent of that is AW68 hydraulic oil. And Another alternative to that is just the tractor universal dry fluid that you can get at pretty much any place. I keep it in stock, so we're probably just going to run it on that. Now I'm going to pull off these two hydraulic hoses on the bottom. They're low pressure hoses. This one I believe is the suction hose into the pump, and this one here is the return hose. I kind of get the feeling they're leaking. This stuff, when it gets old and hard, it's really hard to keep tension on it with the clamps. So anyway, we're going to get these things off of here. I got some new hose so we can replace them. And I'm also going to make sure these here fittings are tight. The filter that I took off this thing was date coded 2021, and this oil looks pretty decent. So I guess somebody's been in here before us, but that's okay. We'll change it again because we want to fix these leaks. I took the tank off because I want to clean underneath here and make sure that we haven't got a leak down through one of these fittings or even a porous weld. There's weldments on the bottom of this, so we're going to get everything cleaned up before we put it all back together so we can keep an eye on it. I got some new hydraulic suction hose at Princess Auto, so we're going to cut 2 lengths of it. This thing seems to cut it nicely, cuts it nice and square. And we're going to replace these narrow clamps with proper wide ones. I've got the new hoses laid in. So now I'm going to go ahead, put the tank back on, get them hooked back up. Then we can put on our filter and start filling it up with oil and see what happens. I'm maybe going to put the oil in but not run it and see if I get any drips coming out of the bottom of this tank here. I put a wrench on the fittings and they all seem to be tight. That doesn't mean they don't leak, but it at least means they're tight. Well, the thing has sat here for a while and I don't see any drips, so I don't know. Maybe we got it, maybe we didn't. I'm just curious because there was a lot of oil here on the deck, you know. And that could literally only come from the tank because all the hose connections are under there. But anyway, we're going to leave it and we'll see what happens. I guess it's also possible that if it's leaking around the motor shaft there, that input shaft, the fan could be grabbing it and throwing it all over the place. But now that everything's all clean, if anything does come out, we should be able to see it tracking and figure out what's going on. Now we could change the cable. This one is, of course, the one that was on it, and it's got a real injury right here. We fixed it up as best we could, but it's still pretty stiff, which makes it kind of annoying to operate the machine. So we've got a brand new one straight from Ferris, and all we got to do is swap the brackets over onto it and stick it back in. All right, let's see if I can show you this here. It goes up through here, and then over, and it hooks onto a piece of linkage over there. I think anyway. Oh no, sorry. It goes up through here, and the linkage that it hooks onto is up in there. It's a little bit dicey, but it does go in. I got it out, so therefore I should be able to get it in. So if you can see here, we go right down in, and there's the yoke on the end of the cable. It comes through there, and we just got a clevis pin and a hair clip that goes on it, and that secures that end. Once we've got the clevis pin in this end of the cable, we go ahead. Those 2 bolts are that little angle clamp that holds the clevis to the frame. So we tighten that up because we've got the parking brake on. See here, there's the parking brake. And what that does, this thing here is basically the forward and reverse lever on your hydrostat. So what we want to do, there, that's neutral. So that's where we want to make all our adjustments. And then what we have to do, not sure where exactly the middle is on this. So what we need to do is get this end attached, and then with the parking brake released, operate the pedal and make sure she goes all the way to the end. That's all the way to the end there. It's got no more travel. And we need to be able to pick up reverse too. So we'll do that now and see what we get. That looks about right there. We've got a lot of travel for forward and a little bit for reverse. And the bolts, you can see, are right about in the middle of the slots. So that's probably a good place to lock it down and see what we've got. So let's take the brake off and see where we go here. Yeah, look at that. It goes right to the bottom. That's it, all the way. And we get all of our reverse. So that's it. That's adjusted good. I'll go ahead. It's always going to have a little, that's old age, right? I'll throw this one in my pile of spare parts. It's not the greatest cable, but it's still better than no cable. Next on is this little skid plate. It goes up, hangs off these two bolt holes here, and it protects the important end of the transaxle, or I don't even know what the right name for it is. The hydrostat unit, whatever. You know what I mean. Now it's time to put the battery in. I got a new battery box because the lid was missing from our old one and it was all smashed. That just drops on, just like the original one did. There we go. I'm going to need both hands, people. I redid where all the ground cables converge here on the deck, and I added a battery disconnect switch. Just something I like to have on everything, considering I park all these machines in great big old wooden buildings. Now, we can put the lid on the battery. We've got the cables all hooked up here, and I'll show you how this thing goes. And we have to make one more thing here. Kind of there. And it's got these little things here that go in there. There we go. Now, this thing gets held down with a bungee cord with special ends on it. I don't have the bungee cord with special ends, so we're going to make one. I'll show you what we're going to do. So here's our interpretation of the fancy schmancy bungee cord you can buy from Ferris, or one I can make myself. So it just kind of, you can see here, it hooks over, and that's what holds the lid on your battery box. Just this one's a little tight here because of the proximity to the fuel tank, but there you go, it's in. And then this end, it's got this little handle thingy I made on it, and it just goes in like that. There, and that keeps the lid on our battery. It's looking good. Now I got the wheels back on. Something it will need in the future is tires. These ones are cracked pretty badly, but you know, they're holding air. They do what they got to do. It's not like we're going on the Indy 500 with them. That's it. Aside from firing out and testing it out, the last thing I have to do is get this. We replaced the hour meter, and this one works, but it needs to be anchored down. Well, now we can try it out. I have ordered a new air filter, but it's not here yet. So when it comes, we'll put it on. I'll tighten that wing nut though. There we go. Yeah, let's turn our battery on. Our fuel is already open. So we're gonna see if we can get the hydraulic, that it'll be all full of air. So we'll get that purged out, run it around a bit, and then we'll have to adjust the level. The brake off. Let's see. Oh, she goes. That's good. So back it up and shut her off. That's a good running little engine. Now I'll have a look down there how far the fluid level went down. It doesn't really have a dipstick or anything. You just kind of look down there and make sure you've got, you know, got her filled up to about there. You can see down there all that foam. That was it purging itself. So I can't really get a gauge on the level until all that foam goes down. I brought the deck back. Now we can go ahead and get that put on. And we should be good to put this thing to work. I'm not going to do too much of anything to the deck right now. Last summer when I got this thing, I sharpened the blades and made sure the spindles and everything were good. I only used it a couple of times since then. So I'll leave well enough alone. I did see that problem with the idler pulley when I took it apart. I'll deal with that when we fix the thing up. It's together. It's working. I'm not messing with it. That's a bear of a thing to get on and off. When we go to restore this thing, I will be coming up with some kind of method to hold up the back of this deck or put some little gauge wheels or something on it so that it goes on and off a lot more easy than this. Well, it's all back in one piece. Let's get it outside and see if it mows. That's awesome. The throttle pedal is really responsive now. It works great. So let's get the deck turned on. Alright, let's move. That was pretty good. Mows pretty nice. It's fun to drive. It makes a hell of a rattle when it's idling, and it's this thing. Huh. Let's see what we can do about that. I think I found the hydraulic leak too. I keep seeing oil accumulating right in this corner, and I'm pretty sure it's where they've welded this bracket onto the bottom of the tank. They've burned through, or it's got a little crack in it, or this plate of the tank is welded on all the way around. Excuse me. It could be a bad weld across there. I'm going to let it sit overnight, and we'll see what it looks like in the morning. That'll be a whole nother video. So our Ferris ProCut 61 is back amongst the living, and we can put it to work. It's really fun to use. I like it. You get to sit up high, see what you're doing. It'll take a little bit of getting used to like keeping it going straight and stuff, and hooking it at the ends of the rows. And I noticed that the handlebars, it's not quite straight, but that's all stuff we can deal with this coming winter. It's going to come in here and get blown into a million pieces and gone through from stem to stern. We'll tighten everything up, clean it up, give it a coat of paint. She will be like new. Anyway, I want to thank you for tuning in. Hope you'll come back and see us again. And until then, this is Kevin saying so long from the Claremont Classic Garage.